It's Monday, September 30th, 2024, and that means it's time for another Mining Disrupt news surge. Be sure to scan the QR code right down here to get your tickets to the Mining Disrupt Expo happening next year, 2025, in Fort Lauderdale this time at the prestigious Broward Convention Center. In a little bit, I'll be covering some news that came out this week that touches on exactly why this year and going into 2025 is the most important time to be a Bitcoin miner, and why you need to be around other people that are in this industry to figure out exactly how to situate yourself best to take advantage of what is coming down the pipeline. We're going to get to all of that in just a moment, but as always, I am not a financial advisor. Please do not take anything that you see here as anything other than entertainment or education. Before we get into all of that news, we're going to jump over to the numbers, and we are still in the 60,000s right now. 65,420. Well, that's a fun number, which means for $1 you will get 1,529 sats. We're looking at a slightly slower than average block time at 10 minutes and 21 seconds, but our public nodes right down here, 19,165. Love to see it. Now, just like last week, I'm going to bang right through the news and then share my thoughts on this. But there is one point on Friday that I'm going to have to pause on because I hesitate to talk about it. It's a whopper. It is a big story, and it is currently in the process of breaking right now. So I'm going to mention it, but I'm going to pause right before I get to Friday to remind you that it is kind of a delicate story. So here we go. Monday, Dan Held reminds us that getting to 1 Bitcoin is going to be exceptionally difficult for most people and is only going to get harder. James Lavish, talking about the options coming to Bitcoin, says, remember this past June when a call-driven gamma squeeze in GME, GameStop, was extinguished by the company suddenly issuing 75 million additional shares of that stock, causing a complete halt to the upward squeeze? Right. There's no way to issue additional shares of Bitcoin. There will be no halting gamma squeezes. Buckle in for Bitcoin options. Tuesday, Preston Pish and Saifedean Amos had a podcast together on Saifedean's channel, and it was a good one. The standout moment to me was when Preston Pish said that 80 IQ plebs, it's a joke there, are outperforming big-time investors in all of the charts and everything that they do. And all those plebs are doing? Stacking and hodling. Wednesday, Brains here says, Bitcoin mining is hard. It requires a massive upfront investment and constant recurring costs. The initial cost is key. If you don't get it right, making it sound like Bitcoin mining is really difficult, and then here with the meme, Bitronic goes, why not just get a BitAxe for about 150 USD? And on that note, here Mondo BTC says, steady lads, deploying more hash rate. And right here we can see the problem, hyper inflation, and the solution in one picture. Thursday, Samson Mao publishing a picture of a tiny little crab with a fish about as big as the crab is, saying, I hereby proclaim the end of the Bitcoin crab market. Dan Held here again saying now, $2 trillion BNY Mellon over in New York bank receives SEC approval to offer crypto custody services. Have your moon boots on yet? Oh, and just as things were pumping, oh boy, old Coinbase is struggling again. Boy, every time we're pumping, troubles over at Coinbase. Joe Consorti here says, $1 billion of Bitcoin shorts will be liquidated at 66.6 thousand. Conversely, 1 billion of Bitcoin longs will be liquidated at 63.6. Current price, 64.7. Friday, Howard Lutnick saying, yesterday I told Maria, not going to try that last name, that Bitcoin is a commodity. When you truly understand Bitcoin, it's hard to see it any other way. And now we come to that story I mentioned at the beginning that is, I don't know how to say this other than delicate. It is currently in the process of breaking. There are filings, there are legal actions, and this is that story. Breaking, Swan sues former consultants and executives for attempted Rain and Hellfire plan to steal Swan's billion-dollar Bitcoin mining business in coordination with investor and JV partner Tether. And I'm not gonna share too much about my opinions on that one because it is still so fresh and, as I've said a couple times now, delicate. And so I don't know many of the details or really any of them other than what's being shared online. So we're gonna follow this one for sure. All right. Now, as far as my thoughts, my opinions, my spin on all of this, this is the first story that really stands out to me. Dan Held talking about how difficult it is going to be to get to 1 Bitcoin. And right here, the very first comment from Dogfather says, subtract lost coins and whales, and a whole coiner is going to be a very prestigious social and wealth category in the not so distant future. He doesn't add that part. I'm adding that part. And you've seen those pictures of, me staying humble, and then the guy with the massive, he has one. He's got one. And there's a couple other women holding. It's like some old-timey photo. It's like me staying humble, also me in that picture. You've seen it. It's on Twitter. It's going to feel like that. I really do feel that it is going to feel like that in the not-so-distant future. Okay, hey, Del, what's not-so-distant future? After 2 more halvings? It's not that long. So this is why people like British Hodl are constantly saying, get to 1 Bitcoin, because so few people are going to be able to do that. To close things out, this is one point that Preston Pish made during that Saifedean podcast that really stood out to me. If this isn't a sign of where things are headed, then boy, I don't know what else is going to do it for you.
I want to say it was like 500 million that they put literally on their own balance sheet. And so everybody's talking about, the ETF, the bankers are just sucking fees off the ETFs. There's major Wall Street banks that have put it on their personal, on their company's balance sheet.
He's talking about Goldman Sachs there, putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet. That is a vote of confidence for this burgeoning new asset class that you don't usually see, as far as I know. And more people in that space, in the finance space, are coming around to understand what this thing is. I have lost count how many times I've heard people like Preston Pish saying, you really don't understand what's going on behind the scenes. The conversations that he's aware of, the people that are talking, the things that he's been privy to, the kinds of money that is circling around this like giant sharks just ready to pounce. Why haven't they pounced? Because they can't. They cannot do it yet. They're waiting for that opportunity. Well, why can't they? Well, there's certain things that have to take place. Certain quarterly this and different vetting. They've got to take time. And if you think that they're not pouncing because the price is too high, no. Once you understand what Bitcoin is, and you are talking like Kathy Wood and people from ARK and different things, saying that their base case for 2030 is somewhere in the $1 million+ range, $60K doesn't mean anything. That's nothing. They're going to scoop that up like there's no tomorrow. Keep that in mind when you go about your week. And I will see you next week.